All right, we seem to be holding steady at 38. I'm going to get started. Good morning to all of you in the West. Good afternoon to those of you in the East. I'm Doug Stewart. I'm the chairman at Marts&Lundy. I'm joined by my colleague Jackie Lewis, a consultant with Marts&Lundy Canada, and we're just delighted to be with you all today to talk about our study on principle and transformational giving in the study. And if during this webinar you have any questions or comments, please use the Q&A function, and we will be tracking that, and we will respond either during the webinar or at the very end of the presentation. So let's move to our first slide and talk a little bit about the participants that we had in this study. We asked 14 universities and 17 hospital foundations across Canada to participate in this study about their operations, aspirations, and trends in philanthropic giving at the principal and transformational gift levels. We conducted the study last fall. Participants submitted data and participated in an interview. Our participants were roughly equally divided between medical and doctoral universities, comprehensive universities, teaching hospital foundations, and community or children's hospital foundations. And geographically, the majority of participants came from Ontario and from Western Canada, but a number of provinces were represented. Why do a principal gift study at this point? Well, one of the things that is remarkable is the growth in principal giving and transformational giving in Canada. The first $100 million gift in Canada was made in the year 2000, and things have changed drastically since then. In 2022, there were 6 gifts greater than $100 million, including a record-setting $500 million estate gift. So we wanted to understand more about principal and transformational giving in the healthcare and educational sectors. Going on to the next slide, one of the things that we discovered is the different levels of principal gifts as defined by different organizations and the different nomenclature between different organizations. But there were some common elements. Principal gifts can be defined by dollar level, and as you can see on this chart, medical and doctoral institutions on average defined a principal gift as $3.4 million, many of them up to $5 million. Teaching hospitals on average defined a principal gift at $2 million, and so forth, while the major gift range definition typically hovered around $35,000. One of the things that we found is that principal gifts are defined in a number of ways besides dollar level. Certainly they're defined in terms of impact, because with a single commitment, donors are making significant changes either for their community or for the institution that is receiving these large gifts. These are the top gifts to the organization. Often universities, we found, use the term principal gifts for gifts of $1 million and above, and transformational gifts for those over $25 million. But hospital foundations typically considered all gifts over $1 million to be transformational, and typically hospitals didn't use the term principal gifts. We know that given the size of the gift and the opportunity that it unlocks for the organization, these gifts typically involve the president or principal, a dean, or a service line chief that will be responsible for implementing these gifts. And one of the things that we found is that increasingly these principal or transformational gifts include an estate planning component. Donors may involve their financial planning teams and multiple generations of their family when making decisions. So strategic orientation can also be interpreted by looking at principal and major thresholds. And just thinking as you look at this chart about how these organizations go about resourcing their operations and thinking about staffing for so-called principal gifts versus major gifts. So which organizations are receiving principal gifts? Well, when we analyzed the information, we found that 9 out of the 31 organizations participating in our study stood out as top performers. So those top performers, on average, saw their typical or largest gift average $28 million as opposed to $2.1 million in the other participants in the study. A huge difference between the top performers and the rest of the participants. The top performers were a mix of medical doctoral universities, teaching hospital foundations, and one community hospital foundation. But one thing was common. Unsurprisingly, the top performers are larger institutions, whether that's measured for universities by enrollment or by hospital number of beds. It was the large organizations that tended to receive more principal gifts. There are benefits to being part of a larger engine. More people are aware of and have accessed your organization. There is likely a stronger marketing presence, bolstering development, and donors can equate the large value of their gift with the size of impact that it can have. But size was not everything. As we reviewed the data by the top performers, we looked at different cohorts within our study, and we found that, again, not surprisingly, medical doctoral universities tended to receive the largest number of principal gifts and the highest value of principal gifts in our study. And we believe that some of the reasons that medical and doctoral universities raise more is just the passion and commitment from donors to tackle major health challenges through research, and that those can be enhanced and implemented at a medical doctoral university. Another factor is that the donor pool is naturally larger, combining both alumni and grateful patients who often want to make a difference based on an incredibly important life event affecting them or someone they love. So Jackie is going to talk a little bit now about what inspires top gifts.
Thanks, Doug. The question that arose through some of these conversations was exactly this: what inspires these top gifts to top performing organizations and to all organizations? And what we heard is that compelling priorities is one of the key ways to inspire principal level gifts. And what we heard from top performers around their philanthropic priorities is that they're grounded and guided by the organization's strategic plan. So across top performers, there were strong processes and resources to articulate those top priorities. In our principal gift work with clients, part of what we do is to help them think about their aspirations and bring the leaders across the organization together to articulate opportunities. These processes, when most successful, are comprehensive, they're inclusive, and they're prepared with the input of institutional, departmental, clinical, and faculty leadership. There was a perception among a lot of the folks that I had the chance to speak with that if the fundraising team, not the institutional leadership, was the one leading the priority setting, there's a feeling that it's the tail wagging the dog. And so we'll talk more about that important partnership between leadership and fundraisers, especially around principal gifts as we go along here. At the top performing institutions, the strategic plan was the foundation for institution-wide fundraising priorities. And of course, since institution-wide priorities are bigger ideas, they in turn help to attract larger donations. We also saw some commonalities between giving threshold. So we saw that, and that's what you can see here, top performers reported higher principal gift level thresholds. Top performers consider gifts starting between $1 million and $5 million of principal gift, and you can see the average there is $3.2 million. Other participants identified principal gifts starting between $100,000 and all the way up to $5 million, and so the average there is $1.2 million. We did not ask participants if they raised the threshold after they received the gifts or if they had done so to lift their sights to better organize around principal gifts. However, we did see that when organizations had elevated their sights, those are the ones that are receiving the principal gifts, and they're also ensuring that policies, procedures, and resources are in place to prioritize those principal gifts. So it goes far beyond the classification that you see here on the screen. On the flip side, generally speaking, when organizations set their sights lower, it becomes harder to push thinking, ideas, and resources internally, but also with volunteers to then inspire some of those top prospects and top prospect ideas. I think we'll leave it there with the gift thresholds. Thanks, Lori.
So the next question was really, how should I build a principal gifts team? And staffing was an important consideration for many of the organizations that we spoke with. It's a tight talent market, and finding people with deep principal gift experience is challenging. Additionally, we heard that turnover in principal gifts roles is a significant risk that requires a thoughtful approach to introduce a new fundraiser to the situation. This is also challenging for building internal partnerships with clinical or academic leaders when the fundraising partner changes, especially dealing with principal gifts. One of the things that we heard in our interviews is that the longest standing staff person at an organization often holds the portfolio with the highest capacity. The two different models that you see here are not very different. Model 1 has a dedicated staff for principal giving, whereas Model 2 disperses principal gifts among the portfolios of various gift officers. We found that Model 1 is more typically used by universities, and Model 2 is more typically used by hospital foundations. In Model 1, universities with a principal gifts team are typically responsible for building strategy and deploying the university's top leadership and volunteers to engage principal prospects. The principal gifts team is a central coordinating unit across the organization. Sometimes they hold portfolios, sometimes they don't even hold portfolios, but simply convene and contribute to strategy. They support leadership in managing their portfolios, and they also manage cross-faculty or cross-disciplinary priorities and/or the relationship with the president or principal. In Model 2, typically found at hospital foundations, there was typically not a separate principal gifts function. Instead, principal prospects were spread across the organization with strong prospect managers within the foundation. Typically, principal gift donors to hospital foundations prefer to engage with their clinician and not necessarily with the hospital's leadership. Dispersing principal gift relationship across fundraisers was also seen in these cases as a retention strategy to grow more junior fundraising staff's principal gift experience and success. Moving on to access to institutional leadership, regardless of structure, the top performers all shared one common trait. Principal gift officers all had access to leadership at their organizations. Top performers ensured that fundraisers with principal gift responsibilities were at the highest level of the hierarchy, because this helped establish the importance and priority among leaders beyond development or advancement, including the president, deans, clinicians, and volunteers. In organizations where principal gift prospects were divided among various major gift portfolios, the manager acknowledged the importance of providing access and support to those top connectors, the president, the provost, the deans, and the top volunteers. Organizational structures in which principal gift officers report to the vice president or president and in turn have routine relationships with the board and CEO are more likely to have effective principal gift processes and outcomes. Principal gift officers build relationships and teamwork with institutional leaders and decision makers when they have direct and routine contact. We found this was extraordinarily important. One interesting finding, given the intense requirements to build internal consensus, was one organization uses a director of strategy to build internal alignment behind the scenes so the fundraiser can really focus on donor strategy. Moving on, we found, again, not surprisingly, that top performers were the ones with larger development offices. By a significant margin, our top performers in this study had an average of 86 FTE in development compared with just 25 FTE among the rest of the participants. With more staff focused on giving at all levels, principal gift fundraisers can prioritize engagement and giving strategies that maximize a donor's potential. This means they also have increased bench strength for the operations that help advance principal gifts. In terms of resources, medical and doctoral universities, again, not surprisingly, had the largest development and frontline staff counts. It's important to note here that some of the staff have principal gifts work only as a portion of their responsibilities. And note that our measurement is full-time equivalence based on parsing apart the responsibilities of each staff member, including the work of the president of a hospital foundation or a major gift officer. So in other words, when we're counting FTE devoted to principal gifts, we may say that it turns out the president of the foundation is devoting 20% of his or her time to principal gift work. So that contributes to 0.2 of an FTE. While staff sizes varied significantly, community or pediatric hospital foundations and medical doctoral universities have similar concentrations of staff working on principal gifts. However, the medical doctoral universities' principal gift fundraisers are supported by a larger operational team, helping to craft things like communications and stewardship materials. So Jackie is going to ask the question, so if I hire more staff, will I raise more principal gifts?
It's an important question, Doug. And I'm going to answer one more question before we answer this one, and that's the one in the chat here. We've been talking about medical doctoral universities. Anna Maria, it's an important question. We did not limit it to the Faculty of Medicine or the College of Medicine. It includes the full university totals here. And often when I think of the participants who classify as medical doctoral universities, they often also have robust engineering programs, business programs. So while we may draw on the medical component, certainly, when we talk again about priorities, there are priorities across the institution that appeal to this audience as well.
Great question and great point. Thanks.
And Doug, your earlier question, so if I hire more staff, will I raise more principal gifts is an important question. And of course, like a good consultant, I'm going to say not necessarily. If we go to the next slide here, in each pair of the bars that you see here, we look at fundraising productivity on a few different levels. And the top level, in all of these, the light blue level that you see here indicates the measure for top performers, and the darker blue bar indicates the measurement for other project participants. The top pair of bars that you see there indicates gifts per development full-time equivalent. So just like Doug was talking about, this could be a percentage roll-up. So this looks at every full-time equivalent in the organization, including back office personnel. So including research, stewardship, gift processing, events, all of the full team. And you can see that top performers' productivity was double that of the rest of the cohort. So the average staff person is raising $1.4 million at top performers, whereas at other performers, at other participants, it's $750,000 per advancement team member. The second pair that you see here indicates major gifts, and we used $100,000 here. per frontline officer, which extends into annual giving as well. So annual, major, and principal gift fundraisers. And again, it's 3 times the productivity here. Top performers are raising $3 million per frontline fundraiser, whereas other participants are raising $1 million per fundraiser. The third and bottom pair that you see here is the same breakdown by principal gift officer. And we used $1 million as the principal gift level for this measurement, which when you look at this one is 10 times the difference here. So this really reinforces what Doug was saying earlier, and that's organizations that have more resources are more effectively able to focus on principal gift activity. And that includes leadership and volunteer activation. And one of the results that we see of higher principal gift programs is that the return on investment improves, and top performers are more successful and are able to raise more per gift officer. We looked at the same productivity by cohort. This is broken down by that first bar chart that you saw at the top, which is average gifts per development, the full development office. And medical doctoral universities, again, rank first in this cohort. So this chart measures average giving across all giving thresholds and the full development office. What I thought was really interesting here is that community and pediatric hospital foundations raise less, we saw that earlier, in terms of principal gifts, but they're nearly as productive and efficient in terms of all of their staff as the teaching hospital foundations, once you factor in all gifts. On this next chart, each of the bars that you see here represents 100% of each cohort's average annual achievement. And then broken down within each bar, the colored portions indicate the percentage of achievement from each of the giving levels. And so in this case, the dark blue on the left is for gifts of $1 million plus. The middle category there in the light blue are gifts of $100,000 to $1 million. And the gifts on the far right are $100,000. That's the dark blue, sort of navy, the navy blue black color on the right there. What we can see here is that most medical doctoral university achievement is coming from gifts of $1 million or higher, whereas the largest share of achievement for that bottom chart there, the community or pediatric hospital foundation, is from gifts of less than $100,000. And so this is one of the pieces that's playing into the productivity ranking, is due to the fact that more than half of the achievement at medical doctoral universities is coming from those large top gifts. One of the differences between the cohorts that we're seeing here could be a function of strategic orientation. Medical doctoral universities have the stronger strategic focus we saw on engaging staff on major and principal gifts. And traditionally, we've seen that community and pediatric hospitals are more focused on annual giving and events. So to go back to the first question that we started with here, if I hire more staff, will I raise more principal gifts? Again, the answer is not necessarily, but we do see that providing that dedicated focus for frontline fundraisers to engage with top prospects and ensuring the support to articulate those big ideas, those big priorities, bringing internal stakeholders together, creating materials, all of these are also key to building a robust fundraising operation. And all of that together factor into inspiring those principal gifts. Doug, the next question here for us is, what does the future of principal giving look like?
Well, this was an interesting part of our study. We asked interview participants what they predict for the future of principal gift fundraising, and there were 4 themes that we heard. First, the changing demographics of donors means the ways that we want to interact with, the ways they want to interact with organizations is evolving. Traditionalists give differently than Gen X donors or millennials. This puts more pressure on fundraising teams as younger donors expect more involvement and more reporting back than the traditionalists from the waning World War II generation and the baby boomers. Donors are expecting principal giving to have a planned gift lens. This allows them to donate more advantageously to their portfolios and to think more holistically about their lifetime of giving. Third, principal gift relationships take time to develop, and organizations' metrics need to reflect this long-term thinking. I had a number of conversations on this point, how we tend to, in development work, measure everything on annual performance bases. How much did we raise this year? How many contacts did I make this year? How many visits did I have this year? And when we're thinking about principal and transformational gifts, we often need to be thinking about 3-year timeframes or longer for the full fruition of cultivation and engagement, proposal development, ideation, and the ultimate gift closure. So something that I would encourage all of you to think about is, does our focus on annual performance hinder our ability internally to track on principal gift progress, which may take 36 months or longer? Finally, increasingly, donors are asking for organizations to partner with other organizations to achieve even greater impact. That is, I think, good for the sector, but it can create more work for all of us at our institutions as we have to reach out and partner with other institutions. So what are our study's key takeaways? Well, we found a strong partnership between leadership and advancement or development is absolutely key to success in principal gifts. We found that visionary strategic plans are the guiding star for inspiring principal gifts. Simply put, big ideas attract big gifts. And one of the things that is characteristic of our top performers in this regard is that institutions that attract big gifts are the ones that talk about attracting big gifts internally, not just among the development staff, but at the C-suite level, at the board level, and so forth. There is constant talk about big ideas that would attract big gifts. Organizations that prioritize higher gifts raise principal gifts. They do so by focusing strategic efforts on relationship-based fundraising and raising sites with higher gift thresholds. Principal gifts are a priority for organizations and provide many benefits, but also require adequate resources to attract and implement them. So we found that everyone has some degree of FTE staffing dedicated to principal giving. But if you are on this call and were part of our study and you do not have a dedicated principal gift officer or director of principal gifts or transformational giving, it's something that you really would want to consider because of the focus and the discipline that it provides and the ability for one person to concentrate on 25 or 30 of the top relationships that can lead to transformational giving. Again, not surprisingly, we found that fundraising talent is tight, the market is difficult, and the opportunity to work on principal gifts is seen as a retention and growth strategy. So some of our key takeaways. At Marts&Lundy, we approach our work through 3 different lenses. The case, which is why your institution is important and why philanthropy is important. And in that case, in that situation, we find that big ideas definitely inspire big investment. The second lens we look at is what we call catalysts, which is development staff, boards, executive leadership, clinical leadership, and so forth. We found in this study, principal gift operations require intentional staffing and support across all of those catalysts. And then finally, we look at constituents, the potential donors, the alumni, the grateful patients, and so forth. The size of ambition that you have must be supported by your pipeline. You have to develop that pipeline. Big ideas are not enough without a constituency that is attached, engaged, and has significant capacity. So those are our key takeaways from this study. Jackie will be looking at the questions in our Q&A, and please enter any more into the Q&A that you may have at this point. And in terms of next steps, we'll be sharing our final report with all of you soon. And Jackie will follow up with each how the findings of the study compare against your own organization's information. We look forward to those conversations. We look forward to any questions that you may have now. And again, thank you for participating in this study. It was incredibly interesting, and we found a number of important findings. So thank you all for participating. Are there any questions that we can answer at this point? So we have one question. Do you have any insight about whether major gift definitions and thresholds need to grow? On the slide with the thresholds, it seems like major gift definitions are stable across all performance. Yes, that was right. It was close to $35,000. Seems like they have been stable at $25,000 for the last 20 years or so. Exactly. Should institutions raise this level or think about getting donors to think about a new threshold for major gifts? I'll be interested in Jackie's thoughts, but my immediate reaction is yes, that we probably do need to redefine major gift thresholds at a higher level than $25,000 or $35,000. We know in the United States, most organizations are defining major gifts at $50,000 and $100,000 now. Probably time for Canada to do the same thing. Jackie, any thoughts?
I agree with the instinct to raise them. I encourage, to me, it's less about what the dollar is and more about what the purpose of what a major gift threshold is for. So yeah. The purpose is really to provide that sort of concierge service, if you will, or that one-to-one, what we would call relationship-based fundraising. And you know, what we're seeing, and this is true in North America, is that I'll talk about Canada for a minute here, but fewer Canadians are donating, and those that do are donating more. And so when I think about what the strategic implications of that are, it's keep your donors. You know, that stewardship is more important now, maybe possibly than ever. And how can you grow the relationships and talk to donors about what they're interested in a meaningful way to them. So if the threshold is raised, that makes a lot of sense, but staffing it and making sure the resources are there, I think is really important.
I agree. It's not about the dollar level per se. My definition of a major gift has never been, oh, it's $25,000, it's $50,000, it's $100,000. My definition of a major gift, as opposed to an annual fund gift, is that a major gift comes out of a donor's assets, whereas an annual gift comes out of their discretionary income. Well, when you think about, you know, so if someone can give $1,000 to the annual fund, that's sort of what I would call checkbook giving. It's coming out of their discretionary income. They don't have to stop and think terribly hard about that. If they gave you $25,000 in one lump, that might indeed come out of their assets. But there are plenty of people who can give you $25,000 out of their discretionary income. And especially if you say a major gift can be paid over 5 years, I can give you $5,000 a year for 5 years, and it comes out of my discretionary income, not out of my assets. To me, that's not a major gift. So it really, I think, to Jackie's point about providing sort of concierge service to our donors, it really has to be thinking about what is a major gift for each donor. And for one donor, it may be $25,000. For another donor, a major gift may be $100,000 or $500,000. And really thinking about it in terms of, is this going to come out of their discretionary income versus out of their assets, I think is helpful.
Mm-hmm. There's another question here about I think there's two questions asking the same thing, and that's about, is this a percentage of gift count or a gift total? I think you're referring to slide 20, if we can go back, which is called performance driven by gifts of $1 million plus. Before I mix this up, Kathy did our analysis and has joined us today. I'm hoping, Kathy, are you able to answer this question?
Yes, these bars indicate percentage of dollar value, not number of gifts, dollar value.
Thanks, Kathy. Is there a follow-up question about that? Oh, perfect. Okay, great. I'm glad we answered that question. Excellent. Doug,
Great.
those are all of the questions that I see in the chat.
Yes, that's all I see as well. Thank you again, everyone, for participating. Great to have your input, your data, and your participation in our interviews. This was a great study. You will be getting a copy of the full report soon. And again, Jackie will be reaching out to see if you'd be interested in a one-on-one conversation to see how your results compare with the overall study. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.